We go outside, we listen to Nicole, who tells us what to do, and we let Mike Barrett sort of throw us around on the end of the robotic arm. And one of the things I learned through this process is you really do, it is a team effort, and the ability of the team to create such fantastic procedures and operations, we can change. You know, we can slide people in with a little bit of training. I'd basically been in continuous training for space shuttle missions for 4 years, so it wasn't like they threw somebody new in entirely. But we do have that ability to interchange people. You know, there's 5 of us standing up on stage here, but none of us is indispensable. We're all replaceable. We've all seen that. And we all understand that we're just part of a larger team that allows us to fly in space. And on one of my earlier EVAs, I actually got stuck outside for about 20 minutes, literally looking over the Russian segment of the space station while I was waiting for the ground to tell me what to do. And you know, you look at the Earth and you get that glow, and it's unbelievable. But I kept coming back to the fact that what in the world am I doing out here? And I grew up carrying buckets of cement, but somehow as a species we're actually capable of creating this space station. You know, sending people off the planet to explore, to solve those problems that Brian was pointing out earlier. It's incredible. But at the same time, for this mission, I've been called, let's see, biological mass, the bait, the heavy load at the end of the arm. And yeah, I'm trying to figure out what Mike is going to call me this time, because even as an EVA, we are sort of the end effector sometimes on the end of the arm when they need a little more complex manipulations that the end effectors we have on orbit can't do. And Mike Barrett, who's a medical doctor, been a flight surgeon for a number of years, worked at NASA. He grew up in Washington State, went to Northwestern for medical school, did his residency in Chicago. Brilliant guy, wrote the textbook on space medicine, basically. But the way he refers to some of us, I'll let Mike explain, you know, why biological tissue and sort of just a large load on. I've only been gaining weight for the past few months, you know. I'm not that big yet. So come on up here, Mike.
Thank you. I literally spent the last several weeks trying to come up with brilliant, snappy rejoinders to Steve's introductions, and I've almost run out. But as a medical doctor and a space freak, I think all of you know about cyborgs, and the closest I could get was to have Steve on the end of this massive robotic arm and go out there and do things. So that was pretty cool to me. As noted, I'm a medical doctor, and first I want to ask, how many of you have ever thought about being a doctor? Thank you, by the way, for the lights. Not too many. A few. How many of you have ever thought about being an astronaut going into space? And a few more. So the question is, how many of those are the same people? Okay, well, that's more than 0, which is wonderful. And the point of all that is, you know, space is a venue. It's a new frontier. It's a place we're going. It's inevitable. We're going there. And a lot of people think that astronauts are just engineers, just pilots, and a lot of us are, no question about it. However, it's a place where we need really bright people in all fields of science and really life. So we have a few medical doctors. We have a veterinarian. We have geophysicists. We've got a molecular biologist. We have biochemists. And all of these people bring a skill set and a knowledge base and a curiosity to the program, which really serves us incredibly well. And obviously, my passion is what the human body does in space. And somebody asked about life off the Earth. And frankly, you don't need to go much further than the space station, because the human body changes. Every system changes. Blood volume, bone, muscle, the way your brain functions. And literally, we become extraterrestrials after a certain amount of time that function incredibly well in zero gravity, even though years ago people thought we couldn't survive up there. We do quite nicely, but we're very different. So extraterrestrials, we're it. Then we have to readapt when we come back to the ground. And it's really, really fascinating. And unlike Professor Cox's world, where gravity is a very tiny, imperceptible force, it's very dominant to us, the way it affects the human body. And I can tell you that after 6.5 months in spaceflight, when you're re-entering under 4Gs, you feel like a refrigerator magnet, and gravity is very prominent on your mind. You can't move your arms. Ah! So it's a fascinating force to us. I'll move on quickly as a crew member on this flight. As Steve mentioned, I was a robotics officer. I got to fly this 60-foot arm around, mostly with the help of Nicole, and was in charge of cargo transfer and navigation sensors for rendezvous and getting these guys dressed and ready to go out the door on their spacewalks or EVAs. That's more than just picking out coordinated colors. It's bringing the suit together and making sure the seals are tight and they won't spring an embarrassing leak out there. Tremendous fun. I just love being in space. Someone else who really loves being in space is Nicole Stott. She and I actually overlapped a couple of years ago on a long duration flight. And Nicole is just one of the most positive, meticulous people you'll ever meet. She's an aeronautical engineer from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and University of Central Florida, and I give the floor to Nick.
Well, good morning. It is awesome to be here, and I say that because you know, I did spend some time with students while I was on orbit. That was, you know, I think we all have kind of these main memories of our experience in space, and getting to share some of that with students on the Isle of Man was certainly one of the highlights for me. And so it's just really great to be back here. Were any of you that are here in the room today in the session that we had live from station? Somebody in the back there? Okay, cool. Just for my own reference. But you know, we're here today, and it's really a great thing. We have the opportunity to kind of travel places, and usually places that are special to us. We find that if you have some kind of connection, it really seems to improve the message, I think. And I certainly feel a connection to the Isle of Man. I know that these guys all up here now feel like they are also astronauts from the Isle of Man, and we certainly are thankful for the welcome that we've received here. I think that you know, one of the opportunities that we have in space is to look back at the planet, and there is certainly no more impressive thing than that view you get out the window. And I think, like Al said, we look back at places that are familiar to us, and then we find places that we never thought we'd ever see in our lifetimes, and that the globe is just covered with these really wonderful things to see. For me, I found I was really attracted to looking at, first of all, places that were familiar to me on the ground, like the Isle of Man and where I grew up in Florida. But there was always this just really wonderful thing that would happen when you'd fly over a place you may have never even heard of, or that I certainly hadn't, and find something special about it. It would look like a watercolor painting, or there'd be some special thing about the way it just stood out against other things on the planet. And I think we are certainly blessed to have had that perspective. And one of the places that we get to see the planet from now is this facility called the Cupola, which is a module. It's basically a big bay window that faces towards the Earth, and it's this 360-degree view, kind of sticks out. And so you get literally a horizon-to-horizon view of the planet, and you see more of your own spacecraft than you can see from any of the other windows. And it is certainly very impressive. And not only do we look back at the planet there, but we actually do some real work from there too, which is where we have our robotics station set up. And Mike and I got to do quite a bit of that work. Mike flew, as he said, Steve around on the arm from there. And quite honestly, the Earth can be a distraction when you are trying to work, but at the same time have that beautiful view out there to you. I think one of the things I'd like to follow on from Brian too is that we saw this really spectacular image, and taken down to the details of our universe, honestly, and just those numbers. I mean, you talk about money like millions and billions of dollars, but when you start talking about millions of years, thousands of millions of light years, and what is out there for us, and what that we've only really scratched the surface of what we know about what is out there. It is certainly impressive, and I can tell you that it kind of reflects on what we see when we look back. When we look back at just parts of our planet, we don't have that same perspective that the guys that went to the moon had, where they could see the whole Earth at one time. But I can tell you that looking at even some segment of it certainly impresses. And for me, I had heard before people say things like, oh, it just makes you feel so insignificant to look back at the Earth and realize how small we are, and small in the grand scheme of things. And I can tell you that I felt, and I think the guys up here will agree, that it's a totally different feeling. There is no feeling of insignificance whatsoever. I think we find that we look back and we really discover that we have a very important place in the whole grand scheme of things. And how we got here is certainly a question that, is worth answering. And the fact that this planet is so perfectly placed, a few miles this way or that way, it probably wouldn't be conducive to taking care of us. And as Brian said, you look at it, you respect it, and you realize that we really do need to take care of it. And I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity to see it that way. I'll be quiet now and just tell you that in addition to the robotics that I got to do, I also had the chance to fly on the flight deck with Al and Eric and Steve for both launch and landing. Really wonderful experience there. There's, basically no way to describe that wild ride that you get on launch. You feel it. And then I always felt really good about this because I got to just basically boss Steve and Al around while they were outside doing their spacewalks, and they listened to me, and they still listen to me, which is, it carries on. They learn well, and they're wise. No one gets hurt then, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, we really look forward to showing you our video. It's about 16 minutes long. It tries to capture what we did on our 13-day mission, and we hope they enjoy it. At the beginning, you'll see some patches kind of coming up on the screen. Throughout the video, and actually throughout our mission, we tried to do some things to pay tribute to the final flight of Discovery. And this was one of them. And it shows, you'll see these patches coming across the screen, and it's the 39 flights of Discovery. Each crew gets to have their own patch. We have ours here on our flight suits, and so you'll see that in the video as well. At the end of the video, there's two things I'd like you to tell me. One is whose voice is narrating the tribute at the beginning of the video, and then at the end, who's singing the song that wraps up the whole video. I think you'll know both, but we'll see. And so let's go ahead and run the video now, and we'll exit stage.
The ground, countdown.
From the processing team of Discovery to the crew of Discovery, enjoy the ride. Thanks for all the work you did getting this ready to go, and appreciate all your work. And for those watching, get ready to witness the majesty and the power of Discovery as she lifts off one final time.
We have main engine start. 2, 1. Booster ignition and the final liftoff of Discovery. A tribute to the dedication, hard work, and pride of American Space Shuttle team.
He just wants to fly. Woman say it's my turn. Step inside, full burn. Many died.
I'm just looking out the window here, going over the Earth. I'm thinking about how cool it is to be up here doing this, but what's even more impressive to me about the whole spaceflight business is when you have a large team like we have doing something incredibly complex. And yet we pull it off successfully year after year, mission after mission.
One good thing is you can't drop your pencil.